Welcome to another edition of Anthony T's Horror Show. I'm Anthony T. Now, this edition is a best of Anthony T's Horror Show, which means there'll be no news, no new interviews, as I'll get to that in a moment. There'll be no commentary, there'll be no reviews, but I originally was going to save this for the end of the month, but I was having a hard time trying to find a guest to come on for this episode. So I figured I'll just do a best of show, as I was going to do one in about another week anyway, because it's the holiday season, and usually around this time I would do a best of show. As I already have a couple of interviews I'm going to replay from the past year, as I would also say two of my favorite interviews of the year, so you will get that. So don't forget to stay tuned to the end of the episode and tell you what's happening with other things inside Anthony T's Horror Show, whether it be on YouTube or on the website. But this episode, I'm going to pull out two of my favorite interviews of 2019. First up, we'll get my interview with Trista Robinson, the actress from Purgatory Road, as we talk about that film. I truly think Purgatory Road is one of the best films that people haven't seen this year, because it got a direct to Blu-ray release. I really highly recommend you pick up that film whenever you have the chance, or you can watch the film on Amazon Prime. I really highly recommend you watch this film, as I had a very good time watching this film, and I had an even fun time interviewing Trista Robinson. Then after that interview, I will segue to my other favorite interview of 2019, and that is my interview with the director of The Mutilator, Buddy Cooper, as we had a conversation about the film. He even had a screening at the location of where they shot the film. It's a very good interview. I really highly recommend you check it out if you're a fan of The Mutilator. It's a cult 80s slasher film, which you can also see on Amazon Prime. I believe it's also on Shudder as well. So that's what I have this episode. When I come back, I will have the Trista Robinson interview. Every day there's a family struggling with hospital bills to care for their sick child who is fighting an illness. There's a woman who is fighting breast cancer and is having trouble making ends meet while paying for their treatment. And there are burn victims that are going through treatments to heal their deep wounds. There is a charity in the horror community that helps these people. Scares That Care is an organization that helps families deal with the bills for their child. They help women get the treatment they need to fight breast cancer, and they help people who are dealing with severe burns get the help they need to heal. Scares That Care is a 100% volunteer organization and 501c3 nonprofit charity that is dedicated to helping these people in fighting real monsters. To find out more information or to donate to Scares That Care, you can go to www.scaresthatcare.org. Every donation helps Scares That Care fight real monsters. Besides Anthony T's Horror Show, you can also listen to these other fine podcasts on the Doc Discussions Network. Doc Discussions, hosted by Philip Perrone and Michael Darwin. You Know Nothing, Jon Snow, a Game of Thrones podcast. Bullets, Brothels, and Bots, a Westworld podcast. Halloween Boutique, Psychotronic Reviews, and Searching for American Gods. You can find Doc Discussions on the web at www.docdiscussions.com, and Doc Discussions is also available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify. Welcome back to Anthony T's Horror Show. I'm with Trista Robinson. She's an actress who has a new film out called Purgatory Road, which was recently released by Unearthed Films. Trista, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, what made you want to pursue acting?
My aunt was an actress in Pittsburgh. She did a lot of theater, and I lived with her for a while and started doing plays with her, and I really loved it, and I started pursuing acting.
I noticed you have a lot of horror films on your resume. What drew you to the horror genre?
Thank you for checking out my work. I grew up watching horror with my dad. So horror is very close to my heart. And then when I started auditioning, that's what I started booking. And most of my friends are in the horror community. So it's funny, it just kind of worked out that way, but I'm really glad that it did.
Now, your latest film, Purgatory Road, is available on DVD and Blu-ray. Tell me about the film and your character.
Yeah, thank you. So the film is it's written and directed by Mark Savage, and Tom Parnell co-wrote it. And it's about these two brothers, Gary Cairns and Luke Albright, and they have a mobile confessional. However, Gary's character, he plays this priest, and due to childhood trauma, he kills people that steal. And my character is Mary Frances, and she sort of drives a wedge between these two characters when she meets them. And she also is a serial killer.
Now, how did you become a part of the film?
I go back with Mark Savage. We've worked together before, and we're very good friends. And he offered me the part kindly.
Now, what drew you to the character of Mary Frances?
I was so excited to play Mary Frances. I, first of all, had never read a script like this. Second of all, had never played a character like this. I was very challenged because I couldn't figure out how to create an arc for her because she was so badass from beginning to end, and so my challenge was to humanize her, and I think that's what drew me to her.
Now, what were your first thoughts reading the script?
When I first read the script, I was blown away. I'm a horror girl, like we said, so I was so excited to play this role. I also thought the script was just incredibly well written. I hadn't read any other scripts like it. It's almost Shakespearean, the dynamics between the brothers and the father, and I just fell in love with it. But sorry, I forgot the question. Did you ask me the thoughts when I read the script? That's what I thought. I thought like, wow, this is a script, and then I thought, how am I going to play this character? I can't wait to play her, but how? How do I do it? Did I answer your question? I'm sorry.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Now, your character in the film is a very twisted serial killer. What was it like approaching a character like this?
It was very exciting, very daunting. I was so happy that I was offered the role because I feel like a lot of times because of my stature, my voice, I don't always get offered roles like this. So I thought it was innovative of Mark, and I was so excited about it. But I watched a lot of documentaries about female serial killers in order to figure out, like I said, how to humanize her, how to give her an arc. And I kind of decided myself that she has these intimacy fears, and then she can murder people and then hold them, and then it's romantic and beautiful. So that was my way into Mary, so that I wasn't judging her for her horrible deeds, so that I could love her and be her.
Now, was it difficult playing the role?
I mean, shooting technically was difficult because we were in Mississippi and there were tornadoes, and so we'd have to these locations, and I was sort of trapped in my hotel room just because the weather was so severe. So only technically was it difficult. In fact, I used that time to watch all of these docs that I hadn't been able to access before. So it actually, I feel like, really informed my performance, oddly enough. But besides that, I didn't like take it home with me in a negative way or anything. I think because I was so on board with her and who she was, and I made it romantic in my mind, that it didn't disturb me because I wasn't afraid of her.
Now, what was it like working with director Mark Savage?
Oh, working with Mark was great, very comfortable. He's, like I said, he's a very good friend of mine, and we have very similar sensibilities. It's not like I had to improv or anything because everything was in the script. The script was so tight and so great that I was super just happy. And then he was also very receptive to any ideas I had, of course. And we talked about Mary a lot, and we met together a lot here in LA, and we went shopping for her wardrobe together. We really put Mary together before we went out to Mississippi to shoot. So it was great.
Now, I like the way you made the character very psychotic.
Thank you.
Was he one of those directors that gave you the freedom to approach the character that way? Or was he strict in what he wanted for the character?
Oh, Mark. Fortunately, like I said, we have very similar sensibilities. We're on the same page, which is why we like to work together. So, of course, he would give me direction, and a lot of times the direction would feel awkward. I'm not saying I never second guessed it, and I've even told him, watching the film back, I can tell those moments that were his direction, and I know that he's right. And it's mostly a lot of technical things, which feels sometimes when you're acting, you do things that feel awkward for camera that look good on camera. But as far as Mary, we both understood her. Obviously, he created her, and then he let me take the reins. So it's not like we battled or anything. He totally gave me the freedom and then would gently guide me. But it was pretty, we just developed her together. It was a really easy working relationship.
Now, you also get to spend some time in the film with the two main leads, Gary Caines, if I'm pronouncing it
It's
right.
okay. I think it's Cairns. I might be pronouncing it wrong. I don't know, actually.
and Luke Albright.
Mm-hmm.
You had very good chemistry with both of them on screen. What was it like working with each of those actors?
Thank you for saying we had good chemistry. I feel that we do too. It was really interesting. I was really blown away with both of their performances, and I think in real life we had this. I think Gary has said publicly that he was going through some stuff which lent him to develop his character in a darker place. And I think Luke is sort of, I tease him all the time. I call him set dad because he's so sweet and doting, which I feel like that comes across in his character. So I feel like they had such insight into their characters in a really organic way that it created the right amount of tension, that push-pull that's sort of exciting to watch. I can't imagine anyone else playing those roles, actually.
Yeah, actually, I thought the performances in that film were the best thing about the film.
Wow, well, thank you.
Because it kept me glued the entire time. Now, I'm usually not a fan of these serial killers type films, but this film was very good.
Oh, I'm so happy you liked it. Thank you.
Now, how long were you on the set of the film?
I think it was about 21 days. I could be wrong, but we just screened it in LA the other day, a week or two ago, and I think that's what they said in the Q&A. Gary or Mark answered it as around 20-something days, maybe a little more because of the inclement weather.
Now, what was the mood like on set in the film's tone?
Like I said, because of the weather conditions, we were just working. There wasn't a lot of room for weirdness or awkwardness, or it was really, and oddly, I think that helped. There's always magic on set when you're filming. There's always stuff you don't expect, and I think often it can enhance the film if you allow it to. And I think us, fighting the cold in Mississippi and fighting the shooting schedule because we were down these days because of these tornadoes, like, I think it all added to it. I think we were all so focused.
Now, the film has a Southern Gothic feel to it, which was captured perfectly.
Thank you.
Because I've seen films that go the Southern Gothic route and fail miserably, but this film does perfectly, which made it also very good to watch. What was it like working in the rural areas of Mississippi?
Oh, that's such a good question. It was so interesting. Like I said, I don't know if we were recording already, but I mentioned to you I'm from New York and I live in LA. So I don't know much about that area, and it was beautiful, but it was scary. There were these lightning storms, which I had never seen. I was in my hotel room just looking outside. There was flooding happening. I'm not saying it's always like that in Mississippi, but this was my experience there. We met so many nice people. I love the accent. I love the food. It was all very, very exciting for me.
Now, was it more of a calming experience working on a set in Mississippi compared to a set in a major city like LA or New York?
That's a good question. I wouldn't say calming, because we, like I said, we're just fighting these obstacles, but I would say maybe more, for me, exciting, because it was such a foreign experience and such an adventure, and I really didn't know what to expect from day to day. It was a hard shoot, but it was so rewarding at the same time, and I felt myself, this sounds cheesy, but I felt myself growing as a person and an actor.
Now, what was your favorite scene in the film?
My favorite scene, that's a good question. Someone asked me the other day at the Q&A what my favorite scene was, and I said it was the death scene in the parking garage, because it's beautifully shot, and I do think it's beautifully shot. But today I have a different favorite scene because I love the film. So today my favorite scene would be the final scene with me in the basement. And you can tell I'm being very careful about spoilers, but I think that one...
Spoil it.
Yeah, thank you. I think that one is also beautifully shot, and it was actually the last thing that I shot. Obviously, we shot the film out of sequence, but my last scene was my last scene I shot before going to sleep for a few hours and then hopping on an airplane to come home. So it felt all the more dramatic and exciting and bittersweet.
Now, what was the most difficult scene you filmed?
That's a good question as well. It might have been the parking garage scene that I just mentioned, because we had actually lost that location due to the storm, and then everyone was sort of scrambling, and so I feel like we sort of shot it on the fly when they got this location, which I think worked out wonderfully. I think it's so beautiful. They did a great job with it. But it was difficult because it was, I think, unless I'm remembering wrong, it was a little bit ago. It was in the week, and it had been when we were able to secure that studio. So I think we shot it at like 4 a.m, and it was had already been a day, but that was what we were able to do. So it was difficult, but I'm so glad it worked out. I watch it, and the way it's shot and the way it's edited, it's so beautiful, and there's a lot of emotion in that little scene.
Now, what were your thoughts about the finished film itself?
I am so proud of the finished film itself. I sorry if I sound stunned. I'm stunned by the film. I think it's so well written, and I'm so happy that it was properly executed, because that's not always the case. Especially as an actor, you only have so much control. I don't shoot it, I don't cut it. Sometimes a script does not always translate well. You can't just have a good script. You have to have everybody has to be really great at their job. And in this film, I'm proud to say that I think everyone knocked it out of the park. I'm so lucky. I'm so impressed, and I'm so humbled by it.
I also noticed while doing some research that you currently have a film that has been winning awards on the film festival circuit called Echoes of Fear.
Yes.
It was a co-winner for Best Picture at the Nevermore Film Festival, which will be taking place on March 9th and 10th in Durham, North Carolina. The film will also be screening at Horror Hound Weekend on March 15th through the 17th in Cincinnati, Ohio. Tell me about that film and your character.
Thanks so much for doing that research. The film is called, like you said, I think you said, Echoes of Fear, and there's a website you can check out. It's called you can check it out at echoesoffear.com, and there's a new trailer up there. It's a haunted house movie. So my character is her name is Alyssa. She moves in with her pet mouse into her grandfather's house after he passes away, and I don't want to give too much away, but the film is shot by Lo Avenay Bradley. Her name's Laurence Avenay Bradley. We all call her Lo. And so she's the DP, and then she also co-directs with her husband, Brian Avenay Bradley. And they wrote it as well. So that was a very cool experience for me to work with a husband and wife team. That was pretty special. And I'm super proud of that film. Thank you so much for mentioning it.
Now, how did you become involved with that film?
That's a very good question. I met Brian and Lo through Mark Savage, who did Purgatory Road, actually. And I had a very small part in their film Malignant. And Gary Cairns, who plays the priest in Purgatory Road, stars in Malignant. So sorry, I know it's all very incestuous and confusing. But, so they, yeah, that's kind of how the indie horror world is. So yeah, I met them through Mark. I had a day player role on Malignant, and then they wanted to work with me again. And now we have Echoes of Fear, which is having this amazing festival run. So it's all very special and very surreal and weird.
Now, are you surprised that Echoes of Fear has been successful on the film festival circuit?
Am I surprised? I'm not surprised per se. I knew Brian and Lo were incredibly talented. I knew they had a great script. They would let me watch playback while we were shooting. So I knew Lo's photography was something special. I knew I was a part of something special. But it is overwhelming. I think we've been to 5 festivals, won 5 awards. It is overwhelming. We were surprised at every win. So I am surprised, and I'm not surprised at the same time. I'm not surprised that my friends are talented. I'm not surprised that they made this film. I am overwhelmed because we didn't make it with awards in mind. Of course, that wasn't the purpose of the film.
You know if there's any plans for a VOD or DVD release of the film in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think they're sorting through distribution right now, so there's not a lot I can say on that. But the film, I would say, would probably be released towards the fall, since we're going to be on the festival circuit still through the summer.
Besides that film, what are some of your upcoming projects?
I am shooting a Western, which is something I've never done, which is something I'm terrified and excited about. So that will start next month. I'm also not sure how much I can talk about that. Sorry, I might be the lamest interviewee when I'm just like, I can't talk about anything, but I can say that I've never done a Western. I can say I'm so terrified and excited and flattered that I was offered the role. And that role I was offered because the filmmakers saw Echoes of Fear on the festival circuit. So I could not possibly be more grateful. And I'm certainly surprised about that because it is a whole new thing for me. I can't believe it.
Now, do you have any films that are currently on DVD?
Yeah, I have Silent Retreat. I have The Human Race. Sorry, I'm thinking off the top of my head. I feel like you can see those on Amazon Prime too. If you have Amazon, you can probably watch it for free. And the other, I mean, I have plenty of projects, but I'm not sure. You know, they put things on, they take things off. I feel I'm going through the Rolodex in my head, and I feel like I'm gonna get off this interview and then get yelled at by some filmmaker friend for not plugging something because I can't think of anything.
Okay, no problem then.
I'm probably going to get in trouble for not answering that question properly. But please check out The Human Race on Amazon Prime for sure. I'm super proud of it. I played a deaf woman, so I learned sign language for the film.
Now, where can they find you on social media?
My name is Trista Robinson. I'm on Facebook and Twitter by that name. I'm not on Instagram, but for sure, search me. I'd love that.
Well, thank you, Trista, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
No problem, and good luck on the success of Purgatory Road and Echoes of Fear.
Thank you so much.
Have a good
You
day.
too. Good night.
Hey guys, this is Steve and Christina. I'm the founder, owner, creator, and host of Super Retro Throwback Reviews. Are you looking for the best movie reviews, music reviews, video game reviews, and Comic-Con coverage all around? Well then look no further. Definitely check out Super Retro Throwback Reviews on YouTube and our new audio podcast, the new and improved Super Retro Throwback Reviews audio files version 2.0 on the following media distributors: Podbean, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify.
Class is over, John. Time for something new and improved.
Welcome back. Now, the other interview that I have planned for this episode is my interview with Buddy Cooper, which took place earlier in the year, back in April. It was a very fun interview. I had a great time interviewing Buddy Cooper, and it was really great to chat about a classic film instead of a current film, in which pretty much all the interviews interviews for current films. So it's great to have a chat about a classic film like The Mutilator. So here's my interview with Buddy Cooper from April of this year. Welcome back to Anthony T's Horror Show. I'm here with director Buddy Cooper, who directed the 1984 slasher film The Mutilator, which you can see on Shudder and is available on Blu-ray from Arrow Video. How you doing today, Buddy Cooper?
I'm well, Anthony. Thank you. I hope you are.
I'm doing good. What drew you to make The Mutilator?
I was a fan of horror movies, and I've always loved the movies. I always wanted to make movies, and I read an in-depth article in the New York Times weighing about film schools. I was thinking about sending myself to film school, and the article closed by saying, if you get a chance to work on a movie, you'll learn more from working on one movie than you will in 4 years of film school. And I had saved some money up, so I said, well, I'll make a movie. That'd be easier than finding a job. So also at that time, 1/3 of the tickets, according to Weekly Variety, 1/3 of the tickets were being sold for horror pictures. So I was thinking, if I could make a low-budget horror picture, I would learn how to make movies, and I would have a good chance of getting my money back. So I decided to make a slasher.
Now, what films influenced you to make and write the script for The Mutilator?
I'm not sure any particular films influenced me to make and write The Mutilator. I was a fan of gore movies, and it was more of an economic decision, thinking that I'd be able to get my money back than it was in reaction or in the following of any particular films.
The film is co-directed by John Douglas. What decided to bring him on to the film as a co-director?
The summer before we shot The Mutilator, John is a professor of film at the American University in Washington, D.C., and they were having a summer course on screenwriting and film production. So I knew I had written screenplays, and I thought I knew how to write one, and I knew something about making movies, but I went up to become better informed. And I met John that summer. He was teaching the screenwriting course, and we formed a good friendship. And he and I stayed in touch during the writing of the screenplay. And when it came time to shoot it, he offered to bring film students and graduate students and recently graduated students to the shoot, which he did. And when he came down to help and actually did some of the directing, so we talked about it. And he had earned a co-director's credit, so that's how that happened. He was very valuable in the pre-production and production.
What was the pre-production like for the film?
I'm not sure how to answer that. The hardcore pre-production, well, I'll skip over casting for the moment, but the hardcore pre-production began when John sent Walker Pierce down to be the assistant director, and she started shaping things up for the shoot. And at the same time, the special effects team came on. That was about 6 weeks before the shoot, and they started getting the gags ready. So it was a busy time. The last 6 weeks prior to the shoot, we were busy. I don't know if that is what you're asking, but that's what it was.
Was there any difficulties during pre-production?
No, I had one person in the special effects team who didn't work out after one day, and I asked her to go home. And at that point, my good friend Ed Farrell came on in the special effects department. That was really the only problem we had in pre-production.
Did you have any challenges in finding funding to make this film?
That is an interesting question. As I said, I had saved some money. I had $84,000, and I thought I could make a movie for $84,000. And so we went into it, but that $84,000 lasted about a week. And then I maxed out my credit cards and went to Wachovia Bank at the time. I had a good relationship with Wachovia, and they wound up lending me the rest of the money on unsecured notes. So the answer is, I was worried about it, but I didn't really have any trouble finding funding because it was basically my money.
What was the filmmaking landscape like in your area during that?
Well, we're 90 miles north of Wilmington, North Carolina, and Wilmington was hot. There was a lot going on down there, but there was nothing going on around here. No, there was no filmmaking.
So pretty much this was the only film production going on at that time in that area.
That's right.
Okay, now your film was originally titled Fall Break. Yep. How did you come up with that title, and why was it changed to The Mutilator?
Around here, you may be familiar with the term spring break. Right now, everybody's on spring break. But around here, around Thanksgiving, there's a break in schooling, and around here it was called fall break. And so, and since these students are on their fall break, and fall break has an ominous feel to it, fall down, break something. That's what made me decide to call it fall break. And the reason it was changed to the Mutilator, when I was talking with the distributor in New York, he said, well, we need an ad campaign. I said, we got one. We made our own. We had everything. We had posters, TV spots, trailers, radio spots. He said, well, let me see it. So I showed him everything. And he said, but I got to tell you, it's shit top to bottom. He said, we need a new one. So he sent me to an advertising firm in Times Square. And they came up with the name for the Mutilator. And they came up with the concept for the poster.
Now, the film's cast in the film was very good. What was the casting process like?
The casting was fun. I started locally, and the guy Ben Moore was a friend, and I knew Ben was going to be in the picture, and didn't find anybody else at that time, so I moved to Greenville at the East Carolina University, which had a drama department, and I looked for some people there and found Ruth Martinez there, but I still didn't have enough people. So we went to New York and had an open casting call where I picked up Matt Mittler and Francis Raines. Some model agency put me in touch with Jack Chatham, who played Big Ed. And these people just all seemed to be right for the roles. Then we got back down, and Ben had a friend, Connie Rogers, and we asked Connie to play Sue. And finally, we picked up Bill Hitchcock, and that was basically the cast. The woman who was hired to play the mother who gets shot in the beginning called 2 days before we were going to shoot and said that she was a good Christian woman and she just didn't think that she could be in a movie like The Mutilator. At that, the film was in the camera, and so I went to my wife Pam, who was doing a lot already. She was helping in wardrobe. She was catering some of the meals, meanwhile running her own business, taking care of 2 small children. And I went to Pam. I said, Pam, I need you to do one more thing for me. And she said, what? I said, I need for you to get shot and die. And she said, okay. And so she did. And she did great. She was excellent. And that's basically the casting. Well, except for, I say Ralph. Let me say that the hardest role to cast was the role of Ralph. And we were about 2 weeks away from shooting. Ben Moore and I were in my office talking about it. Who are we going to get to play Ralph? And one of my secretaries came in and said, there's a guy out here. Here's you're making a movie and wants to be in it, which was sort of funny, you know. And I said, well, send him on back. And Bill Hitchcock walked in. Bill had, at the time, was a practicing magician. And he said so. And he had this patter, this constant yammering, which just suited Ralph's character. And I happened to have a deck of cards in my desk, so I tossed him a deck of cards, and he started doing card tricks. It just floored Ben and me. It was amazing watching this guy handle cards with all this patter. And I said, this is Ralph. So really the most difficult role to cast, just cast itself. He just walked in off the street, and there he was.
Now, what was it like finding the film's locations, especially in the main location in the film?
That was not a problem at all. The pool and the beach. My family owns this motel with the pool, and I had recently built and still owned the condos next door. So the screenplay was written for the locations. We had the locations first and wrote the screenplay for it. So the locations just weren't a problem.
How long was the shoot and what was the budget?
It was a 6-week shoot. We had 29 shooting days. And as I said, the budget was $84,000, but that was ludicrous. It wound up costing $450,000 to put it in the can, and then a couple of $100,000 on top of that for interest and prints and advertising.
I noticed on IMDb that you shot this film in chronological order. Why do you use that approach when shooting this film?
Generally speaking, the main reason for shooting out a sequence is when you have multiple scenes or shots using the same setup at the same location. So you don't have to move the camera and the lights and then come back and set them up again. But we didn't have any of that. Everything was different. And so we just started shooting, and we had an excellent professional crew of department heads headed by a guy named Peter Schnall, who was the DP. And they knew about movie making. I didn't know anything. So I relied on them. And it just evolved that way. We may have shot a little bit out of sequence, but basically it was in chronological order. And it sort of helped with the actors and everybody coming along, watching the story and shooting it and watching it unfold, and somebody got killed and they're not there anymore. So it lent a good feel to the shoot by doing it that way.
Now, what was the most challenging scene that you had to film for the Mutilator?
How long is this interview supposed to last?
We can go as long as...
I think the most challenging scenes involved a couple of the gags which did not work. The first one that comes to mind was Linda, played by Connie Francis Rains, was supposed to be, she's floating in the pool where she and her boyfriend have been skinny dipping. She was floating on her back, and a spear from a spear gun is supposed to burst through her chest, blood gushing out, and the thing gets snatched back down and pulls her under. Well, it's a night scene. We were pressed for time. Daylight was not too far away, and we were sitting on the deck of the condo waiting for the special effects crew, and they came up, hat in hand, towed the carpet, and said, "We got a problem with the the spear." And I said, "What's the problem?" And they said, "It doesn't work." I said, "Oh no, man!" And we're looking at the watches. We know what time the sun's coming up. And I just said, "Well, fuck it, we'll just drown her." And that's what we did, and we slowed it down, and it works well. That the first death when Linda gets drowned in the pool, it wasn't written that way. That's probably the one that was most problematical.
Now, I also noticed in the pool scene while doing research that you used milk in the pool.
Yeah, we needed to hide Big Ed. I mean, if the bad guy's in the water and you can see him, you're going to run away. So we to do that, I just had them dump a bunch of milk in the pool, and it worked. You can't see under the water.
Yeah, I was surprised when I first saw that. This thing, wow! It's like, wow! You wouldn't think milk would work in a swimming pool to create a shadowy effect, but
it took a lot of milk.
What was your favorite moment on set?
That's an easy one. My favorite moment was the last night of shooting when the script girl. I was worried. I was so worried and about this thing that I quit smoking, but I went back on cigarettes for the last 3 weeks of the shoot. I was burning them 2 or 3 packs a day, and we were sitting in the living room. And this is a little bit that was shot out of sequence, because the gore, the bloody scenes, what they called the dance of death in the garage, where Sue got the gaff and got her head chopped off, and Ed and Pam fought with Big Ed, and they got in the car. All of that had been shot, but we were back in the living room shooting the scene right prior to that, when the three kids decided to go out. And along in there somewhere, the script girl leaned over and whispered in my ear. I'd been begging her, "Have we got it yet? Have we got it yet? Are we there?" She kept saying no, though. She leaned over and whispered in my ear, "We got it. We've got enough in the can that you've got your movie if we miss anything else." So that was a good moment for me.
Now, the film has some very good death scenes, as some of them came off as shocking. It's also, I think, one of the reasons why the film still has a following today. Tell me how you found your special effects team.
Anthony, I don't honestly remember how it got started. I think I put an ad in one of the Hollywood newspapers that run ads for actors and such. And I was contacted by a woman whose name I don't remember, and Mark Shostrom, and I was talking with them, and I liked the way Mark talked, and I just said, yeah, come on, do it. It was, as I say, I was naive, and that's probably not the way it usually happens, but it worked for us. Mark came with Anthony Chow, and we picked up Ed Farrell, and it went from there. Mark knew his stuff. He stopped on the way across and visited with Dick Smith, picked up a few pointers, got his recipe for movie blood, and Mark and Ed really got along well. Anthony left before the shoot was over, and Mark and Ed finished it up. They've stayed in touch through the years. Ed's pet name for Mark is Cappy. I don't know where that came from. That's just the way it happened. It just sort of fell into place once I said, "Come on."
One of the most unique things about this film is its theme song, as it has more of an upbeat tone compared to theme songs such as Halloween and A Nightmare on Elm Street, for example. Right. What made you decide to have a more upbeat song as the theme song for this film?
It takes place at the beach, and in this part of the country, eastern North Carolina, southeastern Virginia, northeastern South Carolina, there is a dance called the shag, and it's the tempo typically is the tempo of that song. And I told Michael Menard about the theme song that I wanted a beach music type theme song because the kids were at the beach, so it just seemed like the thing to do. And he came up with that song. Incidentally, he got the guy who wrote the words, helped him write the words, also wrote the lyrics to Under the Boardwalk, which was a big hit beach tune in that era.
What was the writing process like?
The writing process, the writing went unbelievably well for what it is. I was practicing law, and I would come to work early. I'd get to work about 6, and I'd write for a couple of hours, and I would turn my dictation over to my secretary. He was a hell of a typist. She could type 120 words a minute. Then I'd practice law till about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'd pick up what my secretary had typed. I'd proofread it and give it back to her. And then the next morning, we'd do it over again. A couple of days, we did 10 pages a day several times. It just sort of happened. I mean, the characters sort of dictated what was going to happen, and it was easy. It was easy to write that screenplay.
Why did you go for more graphic tone for this film instead of the regular slasher tone films like Halloween and Friday the 13th?
As I said, I was a fan of horror movies and gore movies, and I decided to make this movie for the gore fans. I thought that the special effects would be an important element of the picture, and that's what we did. We made it for the gore fans. So you needed graphic gore for the gore fans.
One of the most shocking scenes in the film is the beginning of the film, with the main character as a kid killing his mother by accident. Yeah. What was your thought process when writing that scene? Because that really set the tone for the film.
I hope I was thinking that it would set the tone for the film. I don't really recall what my thought process was, except that the movie had to have a beginning, and typically that'll be a hook, no pun intended, and it just happened. It sort of tells what the movie is about, which I thought was important. I don't have any more recollection about it other than that.
I noticed through research that this film had trouble when submitted by to the MPAA, as they wanted multiple cuts of the film due to graphic nature. What was the process like dealing with the MPAA?
It was bad. It was really bad. The picture opened well in the Northeast and in LA and a couple other pockets, but after that, because the MPAA wouldn't give us a rating, they offered an X, and at that time an X rating meant porno, and as a result it was very difficult to get bookings in theaters, and it was very difficult for theaters to get advertising. Newspapers wouldn't run the ads, and so it became necessary to go back and get an R rating. And I went to a couple of the meetings. The MPAA has committees made up of volunteers from PTAs of the local schools. And this group of well-meaning parents watches the movie, and they have a discussion which is led by a couple of employees of the MPAA, and they tell you this is too much. You can't do it. And if you ask them what is acceptable, there's no answer. They have no written rule. At the time, there were no written rules, no guidelines. You just have to start cutting, and you go back and show it to them again. And they were merciless. If you've seen the R-rated version and the unrated version, you know what I'm talking about. They cut out all the stuff that we put in for the gore fans, where they made us cut it out. And they were overzealous. In fact, they insisted that we take out a shot that didn't exist. When Ralph gets a gig in the throat, they said the shot that shows the gig going through his flesh has got to come out. And I was in the editing room with the editor saying, it's not there. And I put the editor on the phone, and he talked to him. He finally convinced him that the shot did not exist. It was just movie magic. It decimated it. I was very unhappy about it. Nothing you can do.
Now, how did the uncut version of the film got found after being lost for years?
I had one copy for myself that somehow, when the time came, I could not find. Most of my stuff was stored in a storage room. It got broken into, and some stuff was stolen. And I think that one print got stolen. But I had saved all of the pieces that were cut out, and with Arrow Video, and we were working with Vinegar Syndrome in Bridgeport, I think, piecing it back together. When I remembered that when I applied for copyright registration, that I had filed a copy of the print for that purpose, which is required. If you register something, you have to send the best existing copy. And we had some answer prints from that weren't quite right. The timing was still off, the color was still off. But I took one of those prints and sent it to the Library of Congress, and I was working with Ewan Kent from Arrow Video, and I said, wait a minute, I got an idea. This thing is on file in D.C. Maybe we can get it. And he knew somebody who knew somebody at the Library of Congress, and that's what they did. They borrowed the Library of Congress copy, which was pristine and uncut, and that's what they do for the DVD.
A film that seemed to be lost for years didn't get rediscovered until 2016, when Arrow Video released the film uncut. How did the deal with Arrow Video come about?
I had been talking with different video companies for a few years, and I hadn't found anybody I was satisfied with. At the time, I was talking with representatives of Shout Factory, and I don't know how Arrow found me, but I got a call from Ewan Kent, and we talked for a minute, and I formed the opinion he was a straight shooter. We got along well, and we just agreed on the phone after a few minutes conversation, okay, Arrow Video, you're the one. And Ewan flew over from London and supervised most of the interviews, and got to know the place, got to know us. We got along well. Incidentally, and it was his idea, and he produced there's in the Arrow release, there's the making of Fall Break with all the interviews, which was very good, I think. And even produced that, did all of that.
Now, what was it like getting most of the main players and crew for this documentary and reminiscing about them?
It was easy, Anthony. We all had a really good time on the shoot. It was just relaxed. Everybody had fun. So when I called them, I said, Arrow Video is going to make a DVD. They'd like some interviews. Can you come? The people, let's see, Matt Mittler came from New York. I paid for his airfare. And some others came from North Carolina and around. And I gave them some travel expenses, and I think I paid them some money to come. I took my advance from Arrow Video for the release. About half of it went to having these people come, and it was a good time. Everybody had a good time getting together. Hadn't been together for a while. It wasn't a problem at all.
Now, you have an event coming up on May 4th in Atlantic Beach, North
That's
Carolina,
right.
where you'll be returning to exact location to screen the
Yep.
Mutilator. How did the idea to screen the film at the exact location come about?
There's this guy, Kenny Caperton, from Durham, Chapel Hill area in North Carolina, who is a horror fan. He built a house a few years ago, which is an exact replica of Michael Myers' house. And he has a big Halloween bash every year, and he invites people to come. And I got to know him because he invited Ed and me up to one of his Halloween bashes. Well, what Kenny has started doing 6 months or so ago is going to the location of a horror film and putting on this thing he calls on-set screening. And the fans come and they'll tour the locations, talk to the people. If he can get some of the people involved in the movie to come, they'll come and they get to chat and talk. And it's interesting. He doesn't charge admission. I don't know how he gets his money, but he's the one who's doing it. He asked if we would participate. Yeah, sure. He's a good guy. And so we're going to be a meet and greet here at the motel. I'm at the Oceanana Motel in Atlantic Beach, which is next door to the condo. And we're going to have a meet and greet here. They're going to be some of the actors. Ed and I will be here, and then he's going to screen the movie in the driveway of the condo where everybody got killed, and people will be sitting around outside. That's about all I know about it.
Now, who will be in attendance for that screening?
From
the film.
Bill Hitchcock is coming. Connie Rogers, Ruth Martinez, now Totoro. We're hoping for Jack, but I haven't heard from him yet. Trace Cooper's going to come. He's the boy who shot his mother, and his mother, Pam, is going to be here. Jimmy Guthrie, the bartender in the bar scene, is a local guy. He's going to show up. And then Ed and I will be here.
Where can they find details on this event?
Yep. Myers House NC. I'll spell that. MYERSHOUSENC. All one word. MyersHouse.com/onset cinema.
Now, where can they find the Mutilator on social media? As I've seen an official page on Facebook and Instagram.
I do have a Facebook page. I think it's called Big Insane Ed or something like that. But I suppose if you go on Facebook and search Mutilator, that it'll pop up.
And also, you can follow it on Instagram at the Mutilator Shop. Now, what do you sell over there at the Mutilator Shop on Instagram?
We sell posters, 45s of the theme song. We sell storyboards. We're sold out of Polaroid continuity shots and behind-the-scenes stills. I don't remember everything that's up there. It's pieces of soundtrack, odds and ends, just souvenirs. We had some molds, but they've been sold. Some interesting stuff if anybody's interested in the movie.
Yeah, it'll be at Instagram.com/The Mutilator Shop, or you can search The Mutilator on Instagram. And finally, are you surprised that The Mutilator still has a following to this game?
I am surprised. I am surprised. Yes. Back when it first came out, it was a big hit in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I think it was popular there for about 6 weeks, and then people have talked about it, and I've always had fun with it. But yeah, to find out that people like it this far along is surprising.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on my show, Buddy Cooper.
Okay, anytime.
Have a good day.
Next time
And don't forget, on May 4th in Atlantic Beach, North Carolina, they will be screening The Mutilator
It'll be near the Oceanana Motel.
You can find more information at MyersHouseNC.com/onset cinema. Well, thank you for coming on my show, and have a good day.
Okay, Anthony, thank you. See you later.
For the latest news and information on Anthony T's Horror Show, you can check out Anthony T's Horror Show on these social media platforms at Anthony T's Horror Show on Facebook, Instagram in the Slasher app, at Anthony T's Horror on Twitter. Anthony T's Horror Show can be found on YouTube as well, at youtube.com/Anthony Thurber. You can find Dark Discussions on the web at www.darkdiscussions.com, and you can find Anthony T's Horror Show on the web at anthonytshorrorshow.blogspot.com. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the re-airing of my interviews with Trista Robinson, actress for the film Purgatory Road, and director Buddy Cooper, director of The Mutilator. Both films are available on Blu-ray. Purgatory Road's available courtesy of Unearthed Films, and The Mutilator's available courtesy of Arrow Video. Definitely pick up both those films as they're both very good films. Now, when I get to the new year, there's going to be a couple of changes. I may add new intro music to the podcast, and I'm also scrapping the film recommendation segment as of now, so you're not getting a film recommendation this episode or anything. But next episode, I will be debuting a new segment at the end of each podcast episode. It's going to be called What's Anthony T been watching lately, where I'll probably talk about 2 films that I've seen between episodes, because I want to get some new films here, plus revisit some old films, plus I just want to be more current, and I haven't been more current with my thoughts on films that have been coming out lately. I feel it's basically going to be more geared towards the newer films, so that's why I'm scrapping the film recommendations segment. Now, over on the YouTube channel, over at youtube.com/Anthony Thurber, Thurber. That's how you spell my last name. I will be back to making videos very soon. I will be doing another Anthony T's Horror Collection video, and this time it's going to be shot differently, so there's no need for any more of the cell phone quality shooting, because it's all going to be shot right on my computer, which is cool. And plus, you get to see me hold up films instead of just waving my phone down at a bunch of films. So that will be coming out, I would like to say, between episodes, as I'll probably stop production on it after Christmas, so keep an eye out for that. That could be out before the end of the year or right after the new year begins, so keep an eye out over on Anthony T's Horror Show's social media pages so you can find out when that episode will drop. I will also probably go back to doing video reviews too on the YouTube channel, since now I have a webcam that can film me on my computer instead of having to hold a phone to my face. It makes it a lot easier to talk, and I don't feel stressed out holding a phone. So you can expect some more of those coming up in 2020. With that, I want to thank you for listening to Anthony T's Horror Show. I want to thank you for your support of this show by listening to it. It means a lot to me. Have a good day. Support indie horror, and happy holidays.